What's going on, everybody? Jorge Aquino coming to you live and direct. This is Tormenting Tarmac. It's a podcast where the enthusiast never dies. Second day in a row of podcasting. Haven't done one of these in quite a while. I've been trying to go ahead and back off from bunching so many together and really try and let myself breathe. Problem that happens when I do that is that then I worry, oh snap, something's going to change, and then I don't have a podcast ready to go for that week. And that's a really that makes me nervous sometimes. But this is not one of those weeks, so it's okay. I can do two, I can do two. But if I book three, it starts to get a little bit heavy. But it's all good. This podcast allows us to go ahead and virtually go into different places here within the Phoenix metropolitan area, but it's also allowed us to venture into multiple places in the Union. And tonight, allow us to virtually, emotionally, audio, and visually take you to the Pacific Northwest, because my guest this evening happens to be the director of strategy over at the Dirtfish Rally School just outside of Seattle, Washington, and that being my good friend, Miss Josie Rimmer. In live and in living color, my dear friend, good to see you. How are you?
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. Thanks so much for that lovely intro.
You're so welcome.
Yeah, we were just chatting previously and it's been too long. So I'm very
It
grateful
has
to be
been.
having this virtual evening with you.
Oh, thank you so much. It's a real pleasure. When was the last time we did the podcast? It was last January. It's been a little over a year. You were my
Wow.
season premiere of last season.
Wow. You
Yeah. I know
that's
it's been quick.
you put a lot of faith in me for that one.
You know what though? If there was anybody that was going to put faith into it, was going to be you. You know what I'm saying? It was like I felt it because when you said that you were down to do it. So basically, let's backtrack for 1 second for anybody who is listening, maybe for one of the first few times, or you're not familiar with the catalog. Myself and Josie, we go back about a couple of years now at this point. We had the lovely pleasure at meeting at the Velocity Invitational in October of 2024, held in the beautiful Sonoma, California at Sonoma International Raceway. It has to be one of the most beautiful parts of California. And that's saying something considering how beautiful the state of California really is. And
Mm.
so we were out there and we were connected. I swear to God, this man gets way too many shout outs on this podcast.
Is
You
it
know,
Danny
there
Pete?
it is Danny Pete.
It's Danny Pete.
It's Danny Pete. And but if I'm gonna go ahead and shout him out, I gotta shout out Ryan Barkey, the Barkster. And then meaning I need to go ahead and shout out Lindsay Chesh, who
Yep.
we gotta talk about Lindsay because you guys did
No.
a fucking very cool thing literally a week ago, and whatnot. So we have to shout out the whole family over at the Car Show podcast, who I guess they're like my sister podcast really at this point, and that is um something that I hold dearly because Ryan and Dan and Lindsay are very dear friends of mine, and I love them very much, and I appreciate everything that they do. So, but yeah, we met through DP. I remember going to Velocity, and he was like, "Mate, make sure you go to the Dirtfish stand and go ahead and introduce yourself to Josie and let her know that I sent you." That's a terrible Danny P accent. I'm
I
sorry.
liked it. I really
Thank
liked
you.
it.
I
Yep.
appreciate it. So that's how Josie and I met. We I went over there and I was like, Josie, I'm Jorge. Danny P sent me, and she was like, oh my god, what's up? And then I was taken for one of the greatest rides of my life 2 days later in a Subaru BR, or was
Mhm.
it a no
Yep.
a
You're right.
BRZ? It's a
Yep.
BRZ, not an FRS. And it was one of the most amazing rides of my life. So you set that up. Thank you so much for that.
Of course.
Um, so yeah, that's how Josie and I are tight. That's how we're homies.
And we were
And
so sleep deprived. I think that by the time we talked, it was like the last night or something. I just
it was the
remember
Saturday
sitting
night of.
outside.
It was the Saturday night of, and literally it was the end of the you. I was the last thing you ended up doing media wise before you did your like big dinner with everybody involved in the
Yeah,
Velocity Invitational leadership and stuff like that.
you're totally right.
Yeah,
Memory. And it was the most beautiful night because like the sun was
so good.
setting and Sonoma was getting
Mhm.
quiet and it was gorgeous, but we were so delirious.
Yeah, no, I mean, I had driven from Thursday night into Friday. I drove Thursday night.
Yeah.
I left Phoenix, drove to North LA, spent the night, woke up at 5:30 in the morning, left my hotel at just past 6 o'clock, drove from North LA into Sonoma, 6.5 hours straight shot into not to my hotel, straight to the invitational, straight to Sonoma and whatnot. And then I was there all day, go home or go to my hotel, get some food, get some gas because I needed the gas. I was like I think I had like 30 miles left on my range by the time that I got to my hotel. I got this. What was the name? Mountain Mike's Pizza was,
Perfect.
which was actually, I don't know if I've talked about this before in the past, and I apologize if I have, but when I go to new cities and new towns, I like to try their local pizza.
Oh,
You know what I mean? Is that a normal thing? I think a lot of us do that.
I think it's the best way to travel. I think it's the only way to travel. I feel that way very similarly with coffee. I feel like I
Hmm.
aim for
I can
local all the
totally understand it.
time, and
Yeah.
I have had some of the best coffees in the most random places because of it. So,
Yeah, see, there you go. So I had Mountain Mike's Pizza in Vacaville, California, which was like 30 miles outside of Sonoma. And I remember telling people where I was staying, and they were like, "You're really that far away from Sonoma?" And I'm like, "You don't understand. I spent $150 a night at the fucking Fairfield Inn, okay? Like, don't come at me like that." Yeah, I'm a cheap man. And it was a great hotel, actually. It was great.
shout out Fairfield.
Yeah, shout out to the Fairfield in
Let's
Vacaville,
get a
California. Let's
sponsorship.
go. I know, right? Hey, listen, I'm a silver Marriott Rewards member.
Oh,
I'm silver.
okay.
I would
Okay,
like to
show
get
off.
if I traveled more, I would be gold or even platinum. By the way, I there's beyond platinum. There's platinum, platinum elite, and then there's like another status that I found out recently that I was just like didn't even know that color existed, you know? I'd like to get to that point sometime, but that's I don't know, maybe someday. But yeah, Marriott, if you're listening, I would love a sponsorship. I would
Yeah,
love a
me too.
sponsorship.
Me
It would
too.
be great.
Dirtfish
Yeah,
and
for you in
motorsport.
particular. I'm surprised Dirtfish hasn't worked out that partnership yet.
I'm trying. I mean, we have a lot of really wonderful local partners. So, like for our
Right.
students that come to Dirtfish and, we're traveling into town, we've got some great partnerships, like with the Salish Lodge and Spa, which is world renowned, beautiful, right on the side of the Snoqualmie Falls.
Yeah.
Hotel America, all these great hotels, but none of them are nationwide chains. So,
Yeah. But you know what?
but
That's okay though, because I feel like those are the best type of local experiences. Going back to that,
it's
you
true.
know, like the what's the one that everybody likes here in the Scottsdale area, which is a little bit more east of me. I think it's the Great Wolf Lodge, and it's like a local Arizona one that people like to
Oh,
go to. I would mention the Phoenician, but I'm pretty sure the Phoenician is actually Marriott owned, so that technically doesn't count. But you know, the I think Great Wolf Lodge is one of those. Like we have the Hotel Congress down in Tucson, which is where um the famous bank robber John, is it John Dillinger?
oh,
Yeah. So he's a famous bank robber back in like the 30s or the 40s, and he got caught by the FBI at the Hotel Congress in Tucson.
there
That
you
is a true
go.
story.
Can't be doing
Hmm.
that.
Can't be doing that. Oh my goodness gracious. Um, it made for a great movie though. I think it was like Johnny Depp and Christian Bale. They called it Public Enemies. I think is what it was called.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
I'm behind. I don't, yeah, I'm really
Oh.
behind on all the movies.
Oh yeah. Well, you're so busy. So let me ask you this, because like we'll get into cars in a second. We'll get into Dirtfish. We'll get into what you got coming up and all that good stuff and whatnot. But what is typically something that you enjoy outside of Dirtfish, outside of cars, outside of horses, obviously, because that's obviously one of your most amazing passions. What's like a typical like Thursday night when you're not podcasting with Jorge on Tormenting Tarmac looking like?
Well, obviously anything else is a step down, duh,
Obviously,
from
duh.
podcasting with you. But
You're the best. I love you too, dude.
you're paying me later, right? Yeah,
Yes, I'll send it right in the mail.
great. Um, I recently purchased my first house,
Oh,
and
congratulations.
thank
Awesome.
you. And it's on a piece of property. I've got 5 acres, and it is my most favorite thing in the world to just go wander around. I'm really lucky too. I'm one lot away from the river, the Snoqualmie River here.
Okay.
So my sweet old dog and I, this morning we didn't have meetings until later in the morning. So we went for a nice coffee walk down to the river and sat there and just listened. And she, all dogs just love the water. So for me, those are some of my most favorite things to do. Wander around outside. I've been getting acquainted with a lot of power tools and heavy machinery in a way that I haven't before. I've always been fairly handy, but
Mhm.
this property really requires it of me. It's pretty old, and so honestly, on any day that the sun is shining, I'm on the tractor. It's my
Okay,
favorite.
that's actually kind of rad though. See
It's my
that
favorite.
I've talked to my wife, like, hey, what if we, instead of the house that we have, which I do love, pisses me off sometimes, but I do love this house. But I've thought to myself, I'm like, what if we did like a property? You know what I mean? Something like that, something with acreage. And then she'll look at me and she'll be like, Jorge, I have never seen you do any real yard work other than pick up some of the weeds that are outside. And then I don't think that you would enjoy pushing, the lawnmower and stuff like that. And I'm like, just because you know that doesn't mean that you have to throw that in my face. You know what I
Doesn't mean you
mean?
have to
Like,
remind me. Really, you wouldn't enjoy that?
I'm sure, I
It's
hate
so
house.
peaceful.
Me, yeah, you're probably right. You're right. Like, it is peaceful. And I've done it before and stuff like that. But, I, I work a lot. You know what I mean? And the
It's
last
fair.
thing I want to do when I get home is to do more work.
It's fair.
And please, anybody who's listening, please don't judge me, okay? Like, my life, it's a very, it's a lot. My life is very hectic. It's a big schedule. By the way, I'm not saying that my life is more hectic or anything else than anybody else's, but I'm just saying, I'm talking from my own experience. I do a lot. It's a lot of
You
it's a
have
lot
a
of,
family. Like
I do have a family. Yeah.
the only beings that I'm responsible for at this moment and on this property is just my 14-year-old dog, and I keep looking outside. There's a window behind the computer screen, and there's a herd of elk that wander through every night, and they've been laying in my field for the last 24 hours. So it's things like that, that you just don't. There's some compromises, and like one of them was we had a big old windstorm this past winter, like 60-mile-per-hour winds,
That's
and I'm
fast.
looking outside and it's blowing the roof off of my greenhouse, which would not be such a big deal because like fine, whatever, the greenhouse will get wet, we'll all live another day.
Right.
Except that the direction that the wind was hitting and the direction that the roof was coming off was in direct line with my house. So,
Yeah.
in the
See?
middle of a windstorm, rainstorm, the whole thing in the middle of the night, you're out on a ladder trying not to make a grave mistake.
I
But
can completely understand that.
and this might be a little too existential, which I assume we'll get to later because you and I always do. But I will say that one of the most empowering things for me over the last year and a half since I bought this property is
Yeah.
that every single task or project that I was too intimidated to try at first,
Yeah.
I have since figured out. I have since accomplished. And I can't even tell you how, sometimes it's little things like fixing the roof or putting a door back on its hinges. But every single little thing that at one time was scary
Mhm.
is now something that I feel fluent in. I think that's kind of cool.
It's so funny because I feel that same way about talking to guests on TT, but
Mm,
in that same manner,
yeah.
because 4 years ago I would have not like wanted to go ahead and speak to you or to some other people and stuff like that because I would have felt somewhat intimidated because of what you guys have accomplished in our respective space. I now look at it more so now as yes, I absolutely respect what you have done in the space and whatnot, but now I feel confident enough to be like, your story is amazing. I want to have the opportunity to allow you to go ahead and tell it on my platform, even though it might not be as big as some others and stuff like that. But I know that you will enjoy having a conversation with me in some manner. And I don't feel as intimidated as I would have a few years back. So, in that same level of you no longer feeling intimidated by your house, I no longer feel intimidated by providing a good episodic thing on a weekly basis with this podcast. So I'm so happy that right here, it's seen right here, Jorge
Right
and
here.
Josie.
Right here.
It's
Yep.
right there.
It's happening. It's happening right
Twins,
now.
it's happening right now. Twins separated at birth, really.
Totally.
Um, can I, one of the last things that I remember talking to you about when we last podcast did in January of last year was your rehabilitation, your physical rehabilitation, from having your surgeries done, or you're having your surgery done to, was it your right hip or your left hip? I think it was your
Right ahead. Yeah.
right hip, right? So it's been a year, obviously. Um, Forgive me if I may or may not have seen this correctly on your Instagram, but you were also looking for sponsorship in particular for you, which then tells me that someone's ready to be in a car at a relatively fast pace, which let's fucking go. We're so back.
We are so back,
We're so
baby.
back. Uh, I want you to put the word out that we're back.
Yeah, I'm back.
She's back.
I have spent the last 4 years, going on 4 years, raising money for Dirtfish Women in Motorsport
Hmm.
as a whole for the summit. And very excitingly, over the last year and a half or so, the Dirtfish Women in Motorsport driver program. And I honestly have learned so much. Nobody teaches you how to raise sponsorship. Nobody teaches you how to pick up the phone and ask someone for money. It's a wildly uncomfortable thing to do.
Hell yeah, it is.
Yeah, really strange.
Yeah.
But I've been loving, representing the amazing women that are showing up to Dirtfish and that are ready to take the next step, or maybe they're already competing, but it's time to take it further. Like whatever phase of the journey they're in, I love being the one that gets to pick up the phone and call people to get them on board with these women because
Mhm.
it's so easy to brag about the people that are showing up to us. It's so easy to brag about Aoife Raftery and Michelle Abadi and our internal Dirtfish team. And now that I am physically recovered, knock on wood, and couldn't let everybody else have all the fun,
Of course.
did register for the Oregon Trail Rally, which is a regional event this year, in May. And now I'm raising sponsorship for myself. It is so strange. It's so weird.
Now you go from like saying everybody else is dope to in reality being
Right.
like, listen, I also know one more dope individual. It's moi. Can I'm just a girl. Can I get a little bit of sponsorship? You know what I'm saying?
The great news is I have to give flowers to the partners that have come on board for the Dirtfish Women in Motorsport initiative because they get it, and
Mhm.
B, our recurring sponsors understand that it's not a one-off. We're
Right.
not just trying to raise money for one event or one race or one driver. We're trying to fundamentally restructure the training system to get young women into this sport. And to do that, it takes time and it takes commitment and it takes
Yeah,
money.
of course.
Um, so I do feel so grateful that we have amazing partners that I can call up and say, hey, there's one more on the list for an event this year. You know her, and they've been very kind. So
That brings me so much joy. First of all, it brings me joy to go ahead and see you back in action, and whatnot. Because when we hung out in October at the Velocity Invitational a year and a half ago, obviously you were still very much in the middle of I think you had just had your surgery, if I'm not mistaken, or were very close to it. So it was like you were walking. The funny thing was that I met you and you were walking perfectly fine. Had you not told me that you had just had surgery or getting ready to have surgery, I would have not realized that. And then when you were like, "Oh yeah, I can't drive right now because I just had surgery," and I'm like, "How are you walking normal, dog?" You know what I mean? Like,
So I will tell you. So that was my very first thing that I did at all without a crutch. And I was just being a little stubborn.
mm,
The whole time, as you know, Velocity, like where we were staged with the Group B cars,
yeah, of
we
course,
essentially had batting cages behind them that we could store all our stuff in under the
right.
bleachers. And I had a crutch in there the entire weekend, but I just refused to pull it out because I felt frustrated to have like a visual, so
Crutch.
much of this sport, yeah,
Yeah.
literally. And so much of this sport in a less than ideal way is about perception. And I totally just got in my head in a spiral about not wanting to use the crutch at all. So I will tell you that after Velocity, it took a couple weeks to come back, but listen, she did it.
You did it, and the fact that we talked about the mental hurdles, we talked about the emotional hurdles. Obviously the physical hurdles were always going to be there. That's obviously something to go ahead and get
Mhm.
past. But you know I remember having spoken to you and be like, what's the first thing that you're going to go ahead and have go through your mind when you first get back in a rally car and stuff like that. So now that you have done that, and you've been getting behind it, and you've gotten back up to speed and whatnot, like what was it like? Can you describe that feeling now that you've all gone ahead and experienced it? And what's been the biggest key to go ahead and getting back up to literal speed?
Mm. Yeah, I think one of the one of the considerations that has popped into my brain since surgery that I don't ever remember recognizing pre-surgery is holding a level of caution in just the baseline of everything I do. I never used to have that.
Mhm.
I don't think it's a bad thing all the way through, but um, I tiptoe more than I used to, in the physical sense.
Yeah. As
Um,
a precaution, you think?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I've still got a lot of metal in there. And so that kind of stresses me out sometimes, but it's all fine. For me, the biggest thing has just been trusting my body again. And, I saw my surgeon for a follow-up a couple months after the surgery, or maybe a year after the surgery. And she said, you're now at the point, like all of the fittings are in place. The bone's not going to move, right? The screws aren't going to move. You have to trust your body again. And
Right.
it was really powerful for me to then start trying to trust my body and build like almost a relationship with it in a way that I haven't before. Um, and that might sound silly, but like I talk to my hips sometimes and
Mhm.
when I'm walking and it gets stuck, I just interact a little bit differently. And that's not something that I worked so closely with horses for so long that you're present to them all the time and their energy and their movement and their flow. And I think we forget to do that for ourselves. So now that I am back in the car and back on horses sometimes and moving and grooving through my life and back in the gym and all of that, I don't want to lose that lesson. I don't want to
Right.
miss the part of my brain that remembers to connect all the pieces. And it's been really hugely beneficial. I was forced to recognize a physical flow state. And this is the first year of my life where I really find myself prioritizing my mental flow state
Mhm.
and picking the pieces that matter the most to me and holding them really close. And um, yeah, all of that is a long-winded way to say that I think, all the physical stuff ends up hitting you in weird and sometimes heavy ways.
Sure. No, I get where you're saying because, like, not to go ahead and compare, an ankle sprain to a full-on, hip replacement or, connecting it
Not a
back, but it's still physical. And I've rolled my ankle twice in like, oh, it took me like 5 or 6 weeks to be go ahead and walking back to normal again and whatnot. And it stinks. Like ankle rolls or breaking of the ankle or breaking your foot are not in the it really freaking sucks. And
competition.
so I know that sometimes I've gone on hikes and things of that nature, and then I'll be like, like I have to like do a jump, and the last thing I want to do is land wrong on my ankle and whatnot, and I'll be like, I'll have that thought in my head of like, okay, when I jump, make sure to position my foot in a different way that I normally would, just in case. Because sometimes I'm sure you feel this in some way, and I think anybody who's had any sort of injury, everything is back to normal, but you just feel that it feels weaker than it did before you went ahead and did whatever activity that ruined or injured it and whatnot. So sometimes I've felt that way. So I'll be like, it feels weak. What if I no? And it's like you stop it, right? Stop being a bitch.
Yeah.
Just do it. And I'm sure that that's sort of some of the conversations that you have, not calling yourself that, but you know what I'm saying. You've had those conversations with yourself, especially when you are doing a
Yeah.
much more extreme activity, in the sense that you're about to go ahead and send it at like 70 miles an hour through dirt, and you're going to go ahead and take a really hard turn, a turn that's going to go ahead and put pressure against both of your hips as you go for it and whatnot. And that's obviously a much more different thought process. From when did you get first back in the car up until now? When was the first time?
Honestly, I've only been back in the car like 4 times since.
4 times. Okay, so this way,
Yeah.
like we're talking like a
It's
month,
very
maybe.
recently.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
okay, okay.
Very recently. It took, I wasn't allowed to get in the car at all for the first like 18 months
Hmm.
because of the screw placement and the bone not having yet
Healed.
um
Yeah,
well, it hadn't yet regrown in the shape around the screws.
got it. Okay.
So that was a thing. I mean, I try not to linger on it because it's just a thing, and how lucky I am to have access to such great healthcare and medical care in Seattle. And I have an awesome support system. I have my sweet dog, and everything's fine. I grew up with some training in the horse world that taught me to not believe physical pain, in my own body. So
Yeah.
that's why it took until I was 23 or whatever to even diagnose the hip as a problem, because I just wrote it off as a part of being mobile and doing things and being
Right.
athletic. And um, so that's a whole nother mental side of it, is like I didn't know how to believe myself that I was in pain. I didn't know how to rate the pain. I didn't know how to quantify it. Um, and, one of my colleagues, the amazing Michelle Miller, senior instructor at Dirtfish, she and I now like kind of yell at each other because we're so compassionate to the other person when we can tell that they're in pain. But then when it comes to us, we're like, everything's fine, you
Right.
know?
You're not willing to admit it. I think that
Yeah, there's
happens
a
a lot
balance.
with physical injury. It happens with mental injury. You'll go ahead and notice it in one person to be like, you need to go ahead and get some help. But you can be going through the exact same thing, but you don't want to admit it to yourself. I know that for a fact because it's happened to me on a multitude of occasions. I'm with you. I think that is I think that that is a psychological problem that sometimes we have as we because we know our bodies so well and we know our mind so well, but the phrase our mind does play tricks on us is real. That's real. And so you sometimes need to go ahead and take the step back and maybe reevaluate or just listen to your fellow man or listen to your fellow gal when they're telling you, hey dude, take it easy, like genuinely take it easy. And then we
I
can
would
be
also argue that women especially are trained to have a higher tolerance, not just of physical pain, but like of we are so accustomed to being labeled in a certain way that puts us
too
down.
emotional.
Right. All of it. All
Yes.
of it. And so all that's pretty standard. We all know that, those patterns. But I will say I love being in a group of women at Dirtfish that not only like Michelle and I are always exchanging articles about the science behind a tear, or science
Right.
behind your ligament strain or whatever it is. Um, yeah, so the educational side is powerful too.
Yeah. No, I'm so happy, and I'm so happy that you are constantly willing to go ahead and tell yourself where your limits are because we all have limits, right? And it's as tough it is that is to admit that we all have limits because we're not Superman or we're not Superwoman or Wonder Woman or stuff like that. But we all want to try and be that as best as possible. Like we all want to go ahead and have that 17-hour day at Sonoma where it's like, no, we push through and whatnot, even though we're actually dying inside. Or, right?
Yeah, I think that's a big, I mean, that's even a broader conversation of
Sure.
like what does balance look like? And one of the things I was talking to with my colleague Brenton the other day, he was giving me some advice and he said it shouldn't be that difficult. And for some reason, this hasn't left my head in the, 3 days since he told me that, because it doesn't mean that things won't be hard. It doesn't mean that like you won't have to work your butt off or run a 17-hour day or, haul across the country, like whatever it is, there's always, if you really want something, of course it's going to be difficult. Of course it's going to
Right.
be hard. But what is registering in my brain of what he said is, yeah, the process might be difficult, but the choice shouldn't. You
Mm,
know,
mm-hmm.
choice
Mm-hmm.
to grow a podcast empire, or the choice to, become a rally driver, become a world champion, become whatever, the choice to commit to something like that should be very clear, because it's as obvious as the air you breathe, that that's the path you want to take. But that doesn't mean that you don't have to work your tail off. And I think
Right.
it's something that I wish someone said to me very young, because I'm someone who is there I want to do so many things so well all the time. And I don't, you can't, right? Like that's the whole jack of all trades, master of none thing. Um, and this year there's been so many, I feel like I've really put intention this year into finding the ways to honor all those different versions that I want to be, or different things that I want to achieve or experience. And finding, like if you imagine it kind of like a globe, like what's at the core of all of that. And I truly believe that if we all sort of determine what's at the core of all the different version of ourselves that we want to be, that there's one like central truth.
Mhm.
And whether that's the way that we move or the way that we interact with people or the energy that we bring to the table, like whatever that core thing is, I think that's the way that we benefit the people around us the most. So anyway, that's my tangent on what I think. I'm also realizing that my laptop is not plugged in.
It's all good. It's all good. We did say that we were going to go ahead and get deep, and we got deep
It
real quick. And
happened.
it happens every time, and I love it because it made me laugh. And you were so amazing because you went on with the Petersons Car Stories podcast a couple weeks back. Actually, what like I mean like 3 or 4 weeks at this point, and I didn't know that your episode was upcoming, and so like I tend to listen to that podcast. Of course, that's Dan doing it over there with also of course shout out to B, who I have not met, but I'd really like to go ahead and give her some dap because she's doing an amazing job over there and
A
whatnot.
fellow
But
horse girl too.
oh, she's a horse gal too. Okay, that's what's up. That's what's up. That's what's up. All right, yeah.
Right.
Well, then definitely shout out to B. But I was like, it was very business driven. It was like about the whole motorsport
Yeah.
growth of the women's side for Dirtfish and whatnot. And I'm like listening to it. I'm like, that is so good. That is so typical business minded. The leader that is Josie Rimmer and stuff like that. And then it just reminded me of like every single time you've come on my podcast, you open up in ways that I could have never asked you to open up and whatnot. And I think that's a level of comfort that you and I have been able to go ahead and develop as our friendship has grown over the past couple of years. And honestly, it's because we also hit it off so easily when we hung out that one time and whatnot. So that's something that you said that we were going to get that deep, and I was like, I wonder how long it's going to take before we go ahead and venture that deep, and people get some philosophical advice and life, you know, how to live your life coming from TT and whatnot. That just brings me so much joy. It's so good.
I mean, life is short. Like, let's talk about the good stuff. Let's get,
Amen to that, yo. I love
you
it.
know, yeah, I heard somebody say recently, um, that they're only going, let me get it right, that they're only going to engage in delicious conversations. And I
Ooh,
loved that. I was
they
like,
cooked on that one, yo.
delicious conversation,
It's
you
so
know?
good.
And I feel like, especially on the driver side, now I'm kind of operating as more of a team manager in my role with women in motorsport. And
Mhm.
so I'm witnessing and experiencing a different side of drivers and of teams as a whole. And that's where that can be the turning point in terms of the performance of a driver is like taking the moment to, yeah, lean into the bigger picture. And yeah, when I was growing up in the horse world and training so hard and doing all the things, yeah, I think those were the conversations I valued the most.
Very much so. I mean, and I think the whole thing about having a conversation at this day and age is you know opening up a new way of thinking, or perhaps seeing a new opinion, or perhaps learning something new, or you know literally everything that you were saying up until right now and whatnot, the way you described it is what we you and I do is we do it for the love of the game. So having the conversation with someone else that has the same amount of passion, the same amount of love for doing it the way that you and I want to do it, it's like, oh, that's my that's someone I can get along with immediately. I want to spend time with that individual right now. I want to go ahead and spend an hour's worth of a conversation or so or whatever, and be able to continue to have those discussions because, for lack of a better word, it's delicious.
It is. And like this is the thing that I really, really admire about you specifically is that you prioritize community above all else. And I feel like that's what this does is like having the big conversations that sometimes seem irrelevant or like, not maybe not linear. Um, it's just we're layering all the time. We're weaving the web, so to speak. And yeah, that's what I so appreciate about you and this podcast, and the connections that are made in funny places like Sonoma Raceway at sunset after crazy driving.
With Project Midnight ripping around too. What a
Yeah, it's
day.
all part of it, and I don't think that we can afford as a community anymore to A, take that lightly,
Mhm.
or B, we need each other now more than ever. I'm gonna go ahead and say, and
Yeah,
so no matter where that space comes from, everyone needs it. So if we can
agreed.
have a little puzzle piece in making that space,
Yeah.
then I think that's a huge responsibility that shouldn't be taken too lightly.
I agree. And I think additionally, on top of that, is when you see someone who is kind of coming up at the same time you are within the same space. And, you know, I think that you're still above me in that threshold because you're so deep within Dirtfish and everything that you're accomplishing and whatnot. But you were one of, as I've continued with tormenting tarmac and whatnot, I've met so many people and I get a chance to go ahead. Like the amount of times I'm like, people bring up Dirtfish and I'm like, I know Josie Rimmer. You know what I mean? And it's like one of those things of like, as I've continued to go up and whatnot, and we gain those friendships and we get those camaraderies and whatnot, and we're all like, I look forward to having a conversation with you in 10 years' time and being like, where have we elevated ourselves to next? Like that's something that I really look forward to in some time. Like I was having this conversation with Corey Burns yesterday and last episode, I guess you if you will. And the big shout out to Corey Burns, of course, of Con Media, who makes a lot of great things happen for a lot of people, you and I included. And
Totally.
so I was having this conversation with him of like, it's been amazing to go ahead and see all the people that he came up with in like the Los Angeles car scene over the last like almost 20 years, who are all these enormous names within automotive media now. And they all came up literally at the same time. And it's so cool for them to go ahead and look back 20 years from where they started to where they've gone to now. And I feel like you and I are part of that respective next generation. Just in the same way that you and I are seeing a lot of people who are collaborating with Dirtfish now, Lia Block is part of that generation in some capacity, right? Um, it's that's just a cool feeling to be go ahead and be able to think of that in a few years time we're going to go ahead and see people building up those same friendships and relationships the way that you and I have like over the last couple of years, and it'll be really really cool to kind of see that flourish and also us give back to those respective generations and whatnot whenever that may happen, however it may happen. I look forward to that. That's really really cool.
Yeah.
um yeah, there was a phrase that you went ahead and used on both of the podcasts that you've done with me because you brought up the word community and whatnot, and it's I think you said community over I'm blanking on the second word, but it was the word community. The way that you describe it has stuck with me for a very long time, and it's something that I genuinely appreciate. So it pisses me off that I can't remember exactly the phrase. I was hoping that you'd be like, I know that phrase because I'm the one that said it, but it's okay. I'm sure I'll look back and I'll add it in and I'll be like community over whatever it is. And I'm like, see,
Yeah.
that's what it was. But either way, I think what you said was very kind. And I thank you very much. That means a lot. So, um, I have to ask because, you said that you've been in the car now and in the rally car literally 4 times since you got the clear. Where are you in terms of performance from those 4 times that you've gone for rips and stuff like that? How big has your gaps gone up since then, or is it still going up in small dosages? What do you how do you feel?
I feel slow.
Yeah, okay.
Um,
Valid. I feel like that's totally valid, by the way.
I mean, but to be fair, to be honest, I was never a top podium contender in the few events
Sure.
that I've done before. Um, I can't remember if we talked about this on the last podcast that we did, but Michelle Miller and I talk about this a lot of women aren't really given the space to be beginners very often. And adults generally aren't expected to be beginners again. There's this level
Yes.
of expectation that like you do all your learning in school and then you're done, and it's just absurd. Um, so I actually was really, really hesitant to compete in any capacity at the beginning because I didn't want to be the slow chick. I didn't want to be the slow girl out there. I didn't want to be providing ammo for the crappy guys out there that are going to say, "Well, there's a girl out there, of course she's the slow one," or whatever.
Right.
I was like writing a narrative of negativity that had not been fed to me yet.
Fair.
So, and in that way, I was shutting the door to my own progress, to my own experience. And I knew that this was something that I loved. And one of my colleagues, Jack Harrison, very early on, like right when I started Dirtfish and was hesitant to start rally crossing, he said, "Yeah, but you're doing it. Yeah, but you're the one doing it." And like that, such a simple sentence like that was all that my brain needed to hear. So I did a couple years of rallycross. When I got into the stage rally, um, everything is practice. And I look back at when I first started riding horses when I was like 7. And
Which was like yesterday.
right, that's what it feels like. And when I look at how long and how tedious that progress was, I have to remind myself to give myself that level of grace with the car stuff.
Yeah.
Um, this is one of the biggest things that I try to bring up to the young women that show up to Dirtfish now because I do hear that phrase a lot, like, "Well, I'm going to be the slowest one there."
Yeah.
Okay, are you going to be the slowest one there because of who you inherently are or because you haven't done this before?
Right.
And it's okay to not have done this before. It's the only way that we start. So, um, it probably sounds simple, but Michelle and I have to remind each other all the time, like it's okay to be a beginner, no matter what it is. She's not a beginner in motorsport. She's a stone cold professional,
But
but
she was a beginner. That's the thing. She
right.
was a beginner. And she was a beginner in a time where the dudes were probably even more aggressive than they are now. By the way, the dudes are still ultra aggressive, and I think it's such a horse crap and whatnot.
All of them, but
All not all of them. You'll never hear it from me, man.
yeah, I
Like
know. The way we get along.
there's a lot of people that are going to be faster than me, regardless of the sex. And I'm just here for a good time, bro. But at the
Yeah.
same time, I'm like, can you give me a little something, something? Can I catch up just a smidge, please? But like she was, everybody is a beginner, and Michelle can state that to people and whatnot. And I think that's the key to instilling the confidence into these young ladies that are coming into the game right now, or they're coming into Dirtfish to you right now, and that they say that, oh, I'm like, it's like, hey, breathe for 1 second, breathe. Yeah, you might be right now. Give me
But
two
you should
weeks,
be.
and you
But you
should
should
be.
be. When you
Yeah,
show up,
and that's okay.
right. Otherwise, Dirtfish wouldn't operate as a business, right? Like we teach beginners every day. We would have no
Yeah.
business if there were
Exactly.
beginners
What
in
would
the
what would be the
world.
point of, like, I'm not a beginner, I'm not
Right.
going to go to Dirtfish. By the way, if you're
Right.
not a beginner, you should still absolutely go to Dirtfish. Let's do a free plug. Go to Dirtfish. Carry on.
Yeah, it's just incredible. It takes us back to this conversation of like how we get in our own way.
Yeah.
And God, we're all so good at it. I mean, there's always some narrative in our head that's every reason why you shouldn't. And when you break it down, of course, it's always, well, for me at least, the reasons that my brain comes up with, for why I shouldn't do things is most
Yeah.
often related to how I will be perceived.
Yeah.
God, I mean, what a prison, to put on ourselves. It's like,
Yeah.
you know, um, blinding ourselves when we have 20/20 vision. It's we're cutting ourselves off at the knee by doing that. And you're not to sound too woo-woo, but your inner voice is so powerful. And if you don't have any level of Brenton and I were just talking the other day about how like 5 to 10% of the population don't have an inner voice,
Mhm.
don't have an inner dialogue, which I just didn't realize because my anxious brain is always thinking. Um, but God, I mean, it can cripple you or accelerate you so freaking fast.
Yes.
Words that you let run through your brain.
Absolutely.
And so,
Absolutely.
for the mental side of training for the drivers stuff too, it's like just as important as the physical side on the Women in Motorsport driver program is, I'm constantly talking to Aoife and constantly talking to our drivers about where are you right now, though? What are
Right.
the words in your head? And if we need to shift those, that's significantly more important than changing the brake bias, you know?
Yeah, 100%. I think what you are showing people is, the empowerment side of it. Yes. But if you go deeper, you are instilling a confidence in these individuals, which has always been there, but never gotten a chance to shine. You know what I mean? There's a phrase that I've chosen to go ahead and continue to tell myself over the last couple of months, which I remember actually hearing this particular phrase almost 30 years ago this is from a movie. But when you think about it and when you actually say the phrase, you realize, damn, does that phrase actually hit a lot harder? And the great Robin Williams once said, to live would be an awfully great adventure. That is, of course, from the fucking greatness that is Hook. Um, because originally the line is to die would be an awfully great adventure. I think they said it in the OG Peter Pan, but then at the end of Hook, he says to live would be an awfully great adventure, and I'm like,
I
yeah,
miss that, man.
it's R.I.P. to the goat Robin Williams. And so it's just one of those things of like my wife was just watching Mrs. Doubtfire the other day, and it like I was like, ah, damn, I miss Robin Williams like hell. But it's just one of those things that like we have to learn how to like live a little bit more. We really do. And I'm telling myself that because I am choosing to live a little bit more outside of the, guy that goes to work to provide us for his family. I'm choosing to go ahead and live more with my family. But I'm also choosing to go ahead and do more with this little thing that I love and have such deep passion for because I I love this so much. I've loved what I've built. And
Mhm.
so why would I spend so much time trying to build it into whatever it has become over the last nearly 5 years, mind you? Tormenting Tarmac will be celebrating 5 years of its existence this upcoming
Wow.
September. We're in season 5 right now, but it's 5 years in totality and whatnot, and 200 episodes coming this summer. And like, why would I put all this work? Why would I put all this effort to meeting people like you, to meeting people like all the individuals who we surrounded ourselves by over the last few years as we come up and whatnot? Why would I struggle and walk around like a madman looking to see if I can get Jensen Button on my podcast for 6 minutes? Why would I waste my time doing
Yeah,
all that for it to literally be for naught? No, fuck that, bro. Why?
yeah. And I think
Push,
what you're saying too is like there's this thing of like, don't take life too seriously.
which is
Mm,
valid.
yeah, I think it's half and half. I
Right.
think you take the things you love really freaking seriously.
Mm-hmm.
But also, like, what if we all just lightened up? Like
Yeah.
what if the problem that we couldn't solve today, we took a different approach to, and that was just it. I mean, listen, there are much more serious scenarios in the world that require a perfectly serious approach. Mm,
100%.
my thought is just how do we allow ourselves to like exist softly in the world and like be kind and gentle and generous and sharing and community based and all of those like soft skills in quotes. Um, and also dig really deep and work really hard and take the shit that we care about so seriously because it is like I take it so seriously and I'm so privileged that I have the responsibility and the opportunity to see young women and pull them into a space.
Yeah.
I feel so grateful that I have the opportunity to like partner with our women in motorsport drivers to continue spreading that message, to spread the word, to, take the grit that, for example, Michelle has put into the motorsport world over the last 20 years and scream that from the rooftops. So I take that incredibly seriously. And sometimes I'm standing in Service Park, at the end of the rally or something, and Aoife's just come in, and I'm looking around like these are the people, like we're all doing this silly thing. We're going to drive cars sideways in the woods, which is both a serious venture and what a cool human experience that this is something that we've all
Yeah.
decided.
It's
We've all made
also
a vet.
Yeah, it is an adventure.
Yeah,
It's an
100%.
adventure. It's not something that's required of you to do. It's something that you have the opportunity to do, and it's exciting. It's not meant like, yeah, it's meant to be seriously because it's a very serious task, right? There's a lot of things, a lot of factors that go into driving a car sideways fast on dirt and on gravel and through woods. And oh my God, there is two enormous trees that I'm about to go ahead and send this car through at like 90 miles an hour.
Wow.
One little tweak, and I'm going to hit said big tree real hard.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be pretty. And it's going to take 5 minutes for somebody to get to me. But when
Mhm.
I nail it, I'm going to be like, I am a goddess. Literally,
Yeah.
superhuman feat. You know what I mean? It's so, so rewarding. It's so cool. So that healthy balance allows you to go ahead and realize it makes the excitement of what you're doing that
Yeah.
much more fulfilling.
But I also think it's really, really easy to get stuck in the harder side of it all. Like, okay, I like that you identified that the Car Stories podcast was very business oriented. Um, and that's a huge part of my job, like having the conversation that you and I are having right now is not a majority of my job. And which is why I'm so grateful for it. But, there are times where like you have to be really data oriented and really tough business decisions have to be made and budgets exist and humans exist and
Yes.
personnel issues and whatever, like I'm kind of in my brain imagining it as like the hard science versus the soft science. And um, it can be really challenging to balance that side with like I was saying earlier, like who am I at the core of my little globe,
Yep.
or at the core of my person. And sometimes those items aren't allowed to line up. I
Mm-hmm.
think we can all operate out of like who we are at our core, but sometimes business and whatever demands something different of you. Um, and so it's just, I mean, I guess that's why no one's figured it out yet, right? Like how to do the life thing. Um, but I do believe that like if we just returned a little bit to like the artists in the 60s, just a little bit, just like
Mm-hmm.
allowed that to enter our AI driven world a little bit more, that we would all probably be better humans.
I think so too. I couldn't agree with you more. I think that free flowing state of recognizing, like, a little bit of love can go a lot of ways in a very, very, you know strong world to live in. That, when you and I were growing up, and I know I'm a little bit older than you are and everything like that, but even like I was growing up as a 90s kids in the early 2000s and whatnot, seeing like us millennials. I tell people, I complain about it all the time jokingly but not really. I'm like, us millennials, man, we haven't been able to catch a break in like a really long time, bro. Like it's just like it continuously goes, and I'm just like, hey man, pump the brakes, man. Yeah, I understood that the baby boomers had a lot to go through and stuff like that. They had like, threats from Korea, and then they went to Vietnam, and then they had to deal with the Cold War and stuff like that. But they also bought their house at pennies on the dollar and stuff like that. And now they're selling it for like 600 grand. And I'm just like, hey, yo, that's what's up. Like, congratulations. Us millennials, I look at it, it's like, man, I went from 9/11 to the economy getting busted when I graduated high school. And it's just been on and on and on. And I'm just like, and then you had a pandemic. I'm just like, man, can a brother catch a break just like for 1 second? I don't ask for a lot.
It's a lot, but
It
I will
is.
say, I mean, how privileged we are to like be okay,
Yeah, I won a
And
thousand percent.
more than okay. And I know you feel that way. I'm in no way
Yes.
accusing you of not, but just generally speaking, like I try to keep myself in a state of gratitude as much as possible, which I know is what
Yes.
you do. Um, and sometimes it can be really hard to keep that ship afloat, that gratitude ship
Yeah.
afloat.
Facts.
Every time that I get really caught up in it, I just think how privileged I am to be okay, like
Right.
whether it's physically, mentally, in the physical space that I'm in, like whatever.
I completely agree. No, I definitely, I do, I do. I try to do a really good job of remaining grounded. You know what I mean?
Do.
Like, you and I will end this podcast tonight. You're gonna go ahead and hang out with your dog. You'll go ahead and serve yourself a glass of wine, and you'll chill, and you'll be like, "Man, today was a dope ass day." Right? I'm gonna go ahead and exit, and I'm gonna go ahead and go out to my living room or to the bedroom, depending on what time it is that'll be done. And then I get a chance to go ahead and hug all three of my sons, tell them how much I love them, and then tell my wife I love her too, regardless of whether or not she's mad at me. I still love her. You know what I mean? And it's
Interesting.
that's a really, really that's still a really great place to be in because I get a chance to go ahead and live with my favorite people. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so like and it's thoroughly amazing. And something that I consider myself blessed in that situation. That's really,
And
really
we
cool.
play with cars as our jobs. Like that's
Yeah. True that. True that. I mean, the other day, oh my gosh. So you probably may have not heard and whatnot, but I talked about this a couple of weeks ago and whatnot. My car got its engine replaced. Um, and it was done via the warranty. Thank God. And I was stressing. I was stressing. Kia came through in the clutch. They gave me a brand new engine. I had rod bearing failure. I had rod knock and it was real bad and it was not good. Oil consumption to the like nth degree. And I thought I was effed for lack of a better word. I thought I was cooked. I was like, I'm not ready or in a financial position to go ahead and buy a new car. I don't know how much they'll give me for my car with a busted engine. Like, I'm kind of like, this is not great. And, my friend Andrew like suggested I call Kia USA. Kia USA said that they would replace the engine on their dime, and I got a brand new engine a couple of weeks ago, and my car is right now I think 600 miles in the break-in process, and it's been really amazing. And I'm so grateful for that because it was a level of stress that I was just like, I don't wish that upon anybody, bro, anybody. And speaking of driving cars, though, my friend Andrew brought his 97 Civic Del Sol, and I've known of it. He's had this car for years in our friendship, but I'd never driven it, and I drove it. And, getting a chance to go ahead and play with cars, you just nailed it. And mind you, I wasn't doing anything crazy. It was just like simple driving through the streets of West End, Phoenix, going over to my local AutoZone. It was a beautiful night. The Targa top is off, windows are down. I'm shifting and stuff like that. And I'm just like, what a great cool night doing what I'm doing, driving this car back to my house to my broken, busted car, but still like really cool, you know? And
Yeah.
you're so right. We get a chance to go ahead and do amazing, cool things every once in a while. Like I've ridden in some cars. Doing this podcast has allowed me to go ahead and ride and drive in some cars that I was just like, the hell am I doing here? You know what I mean?
How
Like,
did I get
what?
here? I have this
How
all
did
the
I
time.
get here?
I have this
How did I
experience
get here? Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, and why am I how I'm allowed to talk to you? Like what?
Yeah. It's like, oh, so wait, hold on. We can be in the middle of a field next to a stand, and there's a 600 horsepower STI that is like one of the fastest things rolling God's green earth, and it's about to do laps while I'm recording with like one of the dopest people I've ever met. Like,
It's weird. The whole
it's a
thing's
weird
weird.
feeling. It's real weird, but I can't really complain. I have
Mm.
to ask. I have to ask you because you talked about making tough business decisions.
Mhm.
May I talk to you about the really tough business decision that Dirtfish did by allowing you and a couple of the teammates from Dirtfish to go to the fat ice race? Because that must have been a real tough decision.
That was
That
a
was,
tough
that was tough.
that was a tough one. Yeah, we
Somebody
got
had
a
to do it. You know what I mean? Somebody's got to do it. What
I will say
what a
that
great time, dude. That looked like a riot and a half. It
that
looked
was
amazing.
one of the craziest, most otherworldly dreamscape, inception moments that I've ever been
Mhm.
in.
What did you guys take all four of the cool dope rally cars, or was there something new that you took out there?
No, so this was sorry, excuse me. Um, this was Fat's first time doing it in Big Sky. Their
Yes, it
their
was.
uh, like central event is actually in Austria.
Yes, it is.
So it was
Shout
there
out
for
to
the
Ferdy Porsche. What a G that dude
true,
is.
true, true,
Oh
true.
my God, he's so cool.
Um,
I want to get him on the podcast so bad. Shout out to Ferdy Porsche.
yeah, you need to. Yeah, he was rolling around. So Didn't take cars this year just because we hadn't experienced the event before. We didn't quite know what was going on. By the
Right.
time we got our ducks in a row, it was pretty close to the event date. So Brenton and I went out. We have been working with some folks that were running the event,
Uh-huh.
and they very graciously invited us out there. Um, Here's the deal. When you're rallying, you stay at whatever the local version of the Motel 6 is,
Mm-hmm.
and you never sleep. You don't, you nap, you don't sleep, and you're dirty all the time, and we love it. Like that's our bread and butter. We're like,
Right.
yeah, this is the deal. And Brenton and I rolled up to Big Sky, Montana, and probably 40 times a day, we were saying, act like you belong. Act like you belong here. Act like we're always this clean, right? Like it's
Yeah.
not because the rest of the field taking their cars out on the ice. I mean, they're in Lamborghinis, they're in Ferraris, they're in McLarens, like couldn't be us.
Yeah.
But how freaking cool. And what a great smorgasbord of vehicles too. Like,
What a great
um,
word, by the way.
it's typically what I use when I'm making my girl dinner.
It's you've used smorgasbord, I think, 3 times in our podcast together, and it's one of my favorite things that you do. Please carry on.
I don't even notice. It's just like
I
in
love
my
it. It's so good.
um that's really funny. I'm gonna start paying attention to that now.
Me to call you
Anyway,
out.
it's
It's
just
a great thing.
wild.
I love it. I love it. Please carry on.
I'm glad. Um, yeah, the event's wild. You're getting rides in Rivians all the way up to the top of the mountain to Moonlight Basin, and then you roll out, you walk down past this giant, larger than life inflatable 911, which is insane.
Right.
And then you go out and you walk through the service pits, and it's like, yeah, the supercars, but then there's also, the vintage Fiat that Dr. Alex is racing, and just all sorts of things. I mean, the team there, they know how to put on a show, and for that being their first year was very, very impressive.
So cool.
But yes, to answer your question, that was just a brutal decision to make to attend that event. That was tough.
Listen, somebody's got to do it.
Someone has to,
You know,
it's
you
all
didn't do it.
network.
You didn't do it for you. You didn't do it for you.
No, I didn't
It
even
wasn't for
want to
you.
go.
No, it's no, it's too much. This is too much. This is not something that should fit into my schedule. I cannot. I cannot.
And it definitely wasn't an excuse for me to break out my cowboy boots and cowboy
Absolutely
hat.
not.
So,
Please. Come on now, Miss Rimmer. That's not no.
excuse me and do
Again,
these things.
we're business driven individuals.
I'm
Okay.
really grateful that's the question you asked because if you were about to ask, like, what's the hardest business decision you've had to make
I
this year,
would
I think I would have walked out. I don't want to. I don't want to talk about
I feel that. Listen, no, I feel that. Like that's a question that a lot of business owners and a lot of companies have to ask themselves a lot more these days than they have in a long time. And I can, you know, it's tough, and that's why I commend you for being such a, you know, you've been instilled something in you by your parents, and shout out to Big Steve. Obviously, he's given you um a lot of ingredients to go ahead and become the individual that you've become today in a great way, right? And in order to make the cool thing fun, tough decisions need to be made. Genuinely, we had that discussion earlier. You know what I mean? Like it is what it is. So it is. We jokingly say that, oh man, it's such a tough decision to go to Big Sky and stuff like that. But those are the perks of the job. Those are the reasons why you put in the long hours. Those are the reasons why you know at the end of the day, it's a full-on networking thing to also let people know, hey, Dirtfish is still rocking and kicking ass and stuff like that. And we want people like, hey, you want to not hit that big old snowbank right there in your car? Why don't you come over to Dirtfish and I'll
I'll
show
show
you
you
how to
how.
not hit it? You know what I'm saying? Like, I saw videos of I think it's Tace Anderson. Shout out to Tace Anderson who's the social media manager for Supercar Ron, and he
Oh
was
yeah, I was just emailing with
ripping.
them. So
Yeah,
funny.
so I met him in December. He's a good friend of my buddy Cody out here in the Phoenix area. And so I got a chance to go ahead and talk with him for a few minutes. He's a really cool, down to earth dude. Super young, but he's super smart, super talented. Obviously, doing a great thing over with Supercar Ron as they continue to build up that channel and stuff like that. But like, he was ripping it in an Huracan, dude. I think it was like in a Storado or something like that. And I was just like, my brother in
Yeah,
Christ, that
I
is
know.
some serious wheeling. And like, I had to give it to him. I was like, all right, brother, I see you. I see you. He was doing his thing. And it was
Oh,
just like, so many rad cars doing things that they shouldn't be doing on
oh, totally.
ice. You
That
know what I
was me.
mean?
The whole event, I was like, this really shouldn't be happening here. You
Yeah.
know?
Shout out to
Yeah.
Matt Farah taking out his Myers Manx with a radial engine and just like ripping it. What a
Sure, yeah.
G.
Hmm. Um, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm getting distracted by my really sweet, really old dog here who's,
Oh, good. Do you want to put her on camera?
oh, I would, but she just splooted and she's panting really heavy. So she's
Oh,
on some meds right now. So I'm just keeping an eye on her. But,
okay.
I mean, we've talked about this stuff a lot, like within the industry with a lot of our partners and sponsors. And
Right.
uh, yeah, the nitty gritty of the automotive world right now is obviously tough.
Yeah.
Um, the tariffs are brutal. Uh,
Hmm.
there's all these layers, but at the end of the day, I'm a firm believer that like whether it's on like no matter what department of life we're discussing, whether it's business or anything else, I'm really am a firm believer in like creative solutions
Right.
and believing that there pretty much always is a solution. If there isn't, then maybe there's a different version that can be spoken into existence. But yeah, I am so, so, so grateful that I grew up with the parents that I did because, my mom was brilliant and very high level in the banking industry and the finance industry in New York. So she has such a tight grasp on all of the financial discussions. Obviously Big Steve is he's one of the best lateral thinkers I've ever experienced. Like he'll make a decision or he'll have a pondering and you're like, what? Where's show me the evidence, right? Like show me the facts. And then 6 months or a year, 2 years later, it all plays out and you're like,
Right.
what? Like
How did
30
that happen?
pieces, right? Like 30 pieces had to fall into place to make this work. And how did you know that they would? There's no, what?
Right.
Um, so I'm grateful that like I just got to eavesdrop on those dinner table conversations, and I'm nowhere even close to being near the brain waves that those two are expelling. But so grateful to be surrounded by the most brilliant team, both on the personal side and on the professional side,
Yeah.
that make the whole thing happen. So
I love that. Um, Serious question once more because we're serious individuals. I'm a serious journalist at this point.
very serious.
I take my job very seriously.
I'm ready.
Um, out of the amazing rally car collection that Dirtfish has been able to go ahead and collect over these last few years. Of course, the last time we had a conversation, I asked you what would be the one car that you'd want to make Rudolph on your slate because it was just after the holidays. So my question to you now is, out of the four dope ass rally cars that are in the collection, which one do you think you would have wanted to see rip more around the track over in Montana? Once more, the difficult questions is what we ask here on Tormenting Tarmac. Josie Rimmer.
I think the 037 will look good on snow.
Yes, it would. Yes, it would. I'm totally with you. Now, I remember, I think you said the Lancia, the
And I was
Integrale.
about to answer that again, but I knew that that was what I said last time.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
for
what
it.
you said last time because it was between that and the Audi, and I'm glad that you went with the Integrale. And I love that you said that the 037 would be perfect because it would.
So I think that's my final answer.
Okay, I will accept this
Thank
because I think that is a brilliant answer because it is perfect.
you. You're welcome.
It would be so gangster. It would be so gangster. Just imagine the rooster tails of snow being picked up because of that thing, and then just like the pure like elegance of what is the scent of gasoline.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then like the sputtering of that thing, it would just be like,
Also,
oh
rear wheel drive.
yeah, we're so back. We're
We're
so
so back.
back.
We're so
Oh my
back.
God, it's so good. Once more, another question because I am curious because obviously you and I had this great discussion of I think it was what's his name? It was Wolf who went ahead and helped you design, who helped design the layout of what you guys wanted on the top of Sonoma over for when you guys um
Wolf.
right? Yes.
Wolf. Yep.
Shout out to Wolf. Who was able to go ahead and figure out this amazing layout for what you
Legend.
guys ended up using as a rally course up at the top of Sonoma and stuff like that. So I would love to go ahead and get your thoughts on if it was your own vision and you were in charge of making the design for what the track would look like at a place at Big Sky for Fat. Was there
Mm.
anything like, was it no notes, or did you take notes and said, I would like to see this design this way for next year and whatnot? I'd be curious to get your thoughts, not as a criticism, but more so as you, the rally course enthusiast.
I mean, I don't know that any driver or person involved in the car world is ever not dreaming up their perfect course, you
Exactly.
know? No, the guys did a great job. I mean, the layout of the fat course, especially these guys suffered because the weather was way too warm. So the snowpack wasn't as dense as it normally would be. And I kid you
Yeah.
not, the guys were out there in the middle of the night, all night the night before, blowing snow, shoveling snow from other parts of the area, piling it in, and then just driving and driving and driving and driving to compact it all. Like so
Right.
much work went
And
into
that's
that.
in Big Sky, dude. That's what's so,
So,
the weather can be crazy sometimes, man. It's really unfortunate, but yeah, it's, I can imagine.
so they did a lot of work. Yeah, rally people always love some squiggles. We love some elevation. Who cares? Like at the end of the day, you're driving cool cars on ice.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'm all about it.
I'm with you. Would you take your Mercor out there? Would you rip it
Oh,
around?
I would love to.
Oh my God, you should do that next year. You should ask Ferdy if he'll let you bring it out. That's actually
I will
not a
drop
terrible idea.
a little hint that we are maybe possibly planning on bringing some of the collection cars out next year.
Let's go. See, that just tells me that I need to go to freaking Big
Yeah.
Sky next year, bro. Once more, adding things onto a docket of can I actually make it work?
Yeah. Who needs it?
Honestly, I would 100% be down to go ahead and be doing some podcast interviews in the snow.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
actually not a terrible idea. Let me go ahead and write this all out as a pitch, and I'll go ahead and pitch it to Fat, or I'll pitch it to maybe I'll pitch it to Dirtfish, and I'll go ahead and get contribute as a reporter on behalf of Dirtfish.
Seems like
That seems like a business discussion that we should have at
I
some
agree. Seems like
point.
an easy decision. Yeah.
I'm totally okay with this. It looked amazing. I was so happy that you got a chance to go. Um, it looked amazing. Because they've been doing it now. I think this is like the fourth or fifth time. Last year, 2 years ago, they were in Aspen, Colorado.
Right.
Which was their, I feel like it was their entry into, let's see how it'll work in the United States. But the previous times that they'd gone ahead and tried it out was in Austria and whatnot. And I'm so happy, Big Sky, Montana, Wyoming, the Dakotas, the eastern portion of Idaho, all that entire area up in the northern part of the United States is such, it's kind of the frontier and whatnot. It's the places that, we look at as nobody wants to live there because it almost can seem unlivable because you're looking at like when it's cold, it's like -30. But then in its peak, it is some of the most beautiful landscape that this union has to offer.
Yeah.
And it's so cool. And like, why, there's a reason why everyone wants to go to Jackson Hole in Wyoming, right? There's a reason why you want to go ahead and own a ranch in Montana. you
That's
know
the dream.
that is
That
literally the dream. And so, especially when you actually are living in Montana and you actually run Montana plates. Yeah. um what was that? Anyways, I move on with my life. It's just like, it's peak. It's honestly, it's peak. I couldn't have thought of a better place in the country for them to have pulled that off it.
it was
uh,
it was beautiful.
It's so gorgeous. I have to ask, with everything from adventure wise that you got that you've been able to accomplish, what are the next plans? Obviously, last year you had the fifth annual Women in Motorsports Summit, which was very much a success. Uh, it's not every day that you go ahead and see Lia Block and Claire Williams in a rally car. Let me tell you. Can you walk me through that for 1 second, dude? Because like I've seen the video of that, and let me tell you something right now. You know, I have been a Ken Block fan for an enormous amount of time. I think car culture misses him more and more each and every single time. But then I see Lia and her honoring of her pops is so cool. And I'll see Scotto, and he's so proud of her, and I'll see Ken's wife, and just continuing to go ahead and carry on the KB43 in every capacity, and whatnot. And I see Lia, like, I want to be careful with how I say this, and it might come across as blasphemous, but I also don't think it will. I think she's a better driver than her dad, and she's like not even 21 yet. Like, which is nuts to me. Like, she is, I think, a better and faster driver than Ken was in his peak or getting there. And it's mind blowing, but then it shouldn't be at the same time. Like, you've seen her like doing her thing with you guys at the school. Can you back up what I just said?
I'm not going to touch that. I'll be honest with you. I'm not going to touch the comparison. What I will say is that Lia is fierce.
He
I
is.
don't, Lia and Aoife have the same thing where I don't actually know that they experience fear, which is a good and a bad thing. But um, here's the thing about Lia. Millions of people have put their opinions on her. Millions of people hold her to a bar that only they decide at their dinner table whether or not she's hit. Um,
That's a
Lia,
tough life to live, by the way.
it is. And Lia has found her individuality
Mm-hmm.
and has stuck to it. And I think that's something that Ken probably imparted. And I think that Lucy, her mom, also is brilliant in that way.
Yeah.
They know who they are and they take it to master whatever their task is. Um, Lia is a wonderful human being. The whole family are made up of wonderful human beings. I'm so grateful that we've been able to spend time with them. Lia and Lucy were on our very first Dirtfish Women in Motorsport Summit panel in 2022. Lia had braces. It was awesome.
She
And,
would have been a teenager back then, dude.
yeah. And this
Yeah.
past year she came back and she was driving for F1 Academy for Williams.
Yep.
And, we'd been hatching like who's our headliner going to be? Who's our headliner going to be? And I had reached out to Claire Williams with no expectation that I would get a response. And she said, yes, of course. And then I texted Lia and she said, yes, of course. And I was like,
What the hell are we doing here?
it was the same feeling as when I emailed Michelle Mouton and she replied
Hmm.
and said, what do you need? And I was like, those are the moments that even when I look back on, they have already happened, right? And even when I look
Right.
back on them, I'm like, did that happen though? Or like, am I conjuring up some sort of, but it did happen. And
Yeah.
Claire Williams, for all of her experience around cars, had never been in a rally car. So, duh, who are you going to put her in a rally car with? Lia Block.
Yeah.
Claire Williams emailed me a few weeks ago and told me that she has never gotten more comments in real life about a video online.
That's
She's like,
so funny.
it's almost embarrassing the amount of people asking me if I peed my pants.
Mind
But like,
you, she was the team principal of a
what a
Formula
great
One
story.
team.
Right, right. And getting into a BRZ with Lia Block was like, it was just so cool.
Yeah.
Again, like I count myself so grateful and so lucky that I get to be the one to give people some of those experiences. Um,
Unbelievable.
I'm gonna say I'm getting a little worried about my dog, so I might have to hop off in a few minutes
I
here.
completely understand. No worries. No worries at all. We've also had a majestic podcast, so I totally,
This
it's
is majestic.
it's been
That's a great
amazing.
word.
Thank
I'm gonna
you.
start using that word more.
Please do.
A majestic smorgasbord. That could be the title of this podcast.
I like it. I was actually thinking delicious conversations, but I like the I like a
Ooh,
majestic smorgasbord as well. Let me debate on those two. As this, I got 7 days to go ahead and get this bad boy edited and ready to go for next week. So, stay tuned to what the name of this episode title is, ladies and gents. But it'll be one of those two. It's been an app. I do know what the intro, what I'm going to use as the opening clip for this podcast, and I'm very very excited to use it.
are you gonna tell
Um,
me or no?
yeah, yeah. I th- I'll tell you afterwards. Not because then people are gonna be like, oh well, I already know because you already said it. It's like, but at the same time, we're serious individuals and we are business people. At the end of the day, we don't do this for fun. Damn it,
I hated
we're
this.
so serious. God, Claire Williams is a very serious gal as well.
We're all very serious.
We're all very serious individuals.
Come
I
on, life
won't.
is boring
The life,
that way.
life. If you take life too seriously, kick rocks, bro. Um,
We're out here being, we're out here tootling.
we just gotta live. You gotta live your best life at the end of the day. You know what I mean? You gotta live your best life. I have days where I'm just like I'm ready to go ahead and put my head against the wall, and then I'm like, get your bitch ass up and let's go. And remember that's very aggressive. I recognize that, but sometimes to myself I'll say that.
Works for
Um,
you,
it
man.
works for me, and it's like I've been put on his. God's got me down here on this earth for 36 and a half years for something. I
So,
don't know if I don't think I don't think we're done yet. So let's keep pushing. Um, but the what you were able to accomplish with the fifth annual event was nothing short of amazing. But it's Samantha Zimmerman, of course, good friend of this podcast, was over there last year as well. Her and her husband Michael, who's also a good buddy of mine, they seem to have a blast and a half, and they spoke so highly of their experience when they went out there and stuff like that. So it looked awesome. Why don't we end it on this? Because you guys just went ahead and kind of with Avance up in Seattle, just went ahead and kind of held like a I guess like a forum, if you will, like a sit down, great conversation with several panelists and whatnot, including friend of the podcast, Lindsay Jesh and whatnot. And you had a part, you had participation in the sense of like behind the scenes and stuff like that. What was it like putting that along together? What was the key to go ahead and making sure that you wanted to go ahead and get the message out there? What was that all that like?
yeah, so I'll give total and full credit to Avance for that event. Dirtfish Women in Motorsport is on the screen as a partner and as kind of a sponsor and as a supporter, because we believe in women supporting women and women's programs supporting women's programs. And but that event was through and through Avance. Chrissy Wells, of course, and I don't know if you've had the chance to meet Shabi yet, but she is now taking over the Seattle branch of Avance, and she is a powerhouse. I mean,
I
she's
don't think I've met Shabi, but I did meet Chrissy in
yes,
January because she came down to Phoenix for Car Week, and then a friend of this podcast, Nicole Wilson, is the director here and whatnot.
right.
So it was really cool to go ahead and get a chance to go ahead and meet Chrissy, and Avance is like slaying the game
Oh,
down
they're
there,
killing it. They're doing
slaying.
so well. And this was Shabi's, you know, Avance has so many events going on at all times. I don't know how they
Mhm.
keep track, but Shabi made such an intentional point to make sure this event was held this year. So they call it the Women in the Industry event. It is a panel of local women who are in various roles within the industry, and the goal is to represent the fact that there are a million and one roles in the industry, and they're not always the ones that you see on your screen or on your social posts. So Lindsay, yes, our mutual friend Lindsay, God. She just has that like stability, when you're in her presence, she is joyful and the biggest smile, but
She
she's not
loves to be
sinister.
there.
Yes, she does,
She
but
does.
she's not, she just knows who she is, I feel like. And she is so generous in sharing that stability with people. I've been at multiple events where um, I'm running around, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And every time I get into a one-on-one conversation with Lindsay, I just feel like, okay, you've pulled me back to a stable place. And for me, that is like one of the top most wonderful qualities in a human being because we all have been around, I think, people who are predictably unpredictable,
Mhm.
you know, in a way that makes you nervous to show up. And when I see Lindsay, even if I haven't talked to her yet, she's across the room, I instantly feel settled. So, huge, huge props to her. And she did great on the panel, so supportive of everyone else in there, and shared her story in a way that I think was so accessible and approachable for young women to be hearing. And that's what we need. There's a million and one ways to get into motorsport, but there are only a couple dozen stories that you're hearing.
Right.
So absolutely loved it. Again, huge shout out to Avance. We also partner with them when they do their all women's off-road day. They show up to Dirtfish and they drive on our off-road course and it's just a blast. So
Yeah.
yeah, again, like if we're wrapping up the podcast, what I really want to reiterate is um, that sort of cliche saying of rising tides lift all ships or whatever it is. Um, we have to lift each other up. It's our responsibility, I think, as women in the industry, as people in the industry who care about it, who care about the core of it. Um, and I feel so fortunate to be surrounded by women who genuinely, genuinely, fundamentally believe in that. And it's
Yeah.
not just words that are coming out of anyone's mouth for like a trend. Um, we have to work together and every opportunity that we have to layer on top of or blend in with another women's group, like we're gonna do it. Because that's the only way that we need to make our progress efficient. And I think that's the best way to do it.
I love that so much. We aptly named our last episode that you and I did together. The table is full, so let's build another table. I think that as the years go on and whatnot, we're gonna run out of tables. So it's time to go ahead and move into a bigger restaurant.
Yeah.
For I'm also hungry, and so that's probably the reason why that came to my mind. But like genuinely, like it's the space is getting too bit it's getting too crowded, so we can't, we don't kick people out, we just go to a different bigger space, a bigger venue, you know. And that brings me so much joy that you and as well as so many other people that are involved over at Dirtfish and obviously your partners over at Avance and just everybody that's and it's not just the Pacific Northwest, Josie. It's nationwide. It's internationally. Obviously, with your partnerships with Claire Williams and your partnerships with Michelle Mouton and what she represents in Europe and has represented for a really long time. And so many drivers are coming out of from there, and they're coming from here too, and it's so cool. You know what I mean? Like this is an international movement that has it refuses to die, and nor should it be killed, mind you. It should never be tried to kill to begin with. But it is so nice that we continue to go ahead and liven it up. This is one of those times where that fire right there, instead of trying to put it out, we got to make it bigger. This is a big fire that needs to continue to grow. And I am just so about that life. And I am so happy that your passion for what you do is very clearly and very evidently seen in what you put out in everything, whether it just be your day-to-day operations as the director of strategy, whether it be when you are managing things, for teams, whether you're in the car yourself, whether you're unfortunately having to go to Big Sky and just do the big girl things that you don't want to really do. I am so happy that you um, are the epitome of what is good in this space. So thank you for what you do, and then thank you for your time. Thank you for deciding to go ahead and come on to the podcast. Thank you for being so easily willing to. I sent you that message. I'm like, hey, what do you think? And it was not like, oh, let me check my schedule. It's like, no, 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 I'm in. I,
Yeah.
No doubt for Jorge. I mean, I was like, that's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
So thank you, for doing what you do, and I hope that the sixth annual Women's Summit is very hopefully close around the corner, right?
Once I plan it, yeah.
But we are looking at a 2026 date, correct? Is that the
We are
plan?
looking at an August 2026 date.
Okay,
Yes.
excellent.
Typically, we've had the event in March and May in the past,
Yes,
but the good news is that our Women in Motorsport driver program has been taking off so much that it's demanded all of my time. So
that's
that's a
totally
great
fair.
thing. But
That's
I
a
do
great problem to
apologize
have.
because I have not set a date for the summit. So I promise it'll happen, one day at a time. If anyone's interested in getting involved or anything, always reach out. And again, I one of the pillars of Dirtfish Women in Motorsport is grabbing the hand of young women that want to get involved and like yanking them through the door. So if there's a question, a comment, anything, like reach out to us. I don't just say that to like seem polite. We got an email the other day from an all-women race team in Scotland that heard some piece of content online of
That's
what
what's
we're
up.
doing and reached out. So we're always open. Jorge, you're the best. Yeah, thank you for everything you do and for your amazingly kind words. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the next smorgasbord.
Well, the door's always open, and I will definitely if I can pull off Montana and Big Sky, let's go ahead and make that happen. But if not, then golly, I need to get up to Seattle. I need to get up
Yeah.
to Seattle. Like, I love Seattle. Seattle's dope. So I will try and get out there to Dirtfish, but we'll end it right here. For those of you who are interested, make sure that you go ahead and following Dirtfish at Dirtfish Rally on Instagram, of course. You can go ahead and follow Josie at Josie underscore rallies on her page right there. Right? Is it Josie
Just
underscore
rally.
Josie
Just rally.
rallies? Yeah. My bad. I just added an unnecessary underscore. My bad. Josie rallies. You go ahead and make sure to go ahead and find her on there and all that good stuff. Be on the lookout for the summit and all that good stuff. And then, of course, you can go ahead and follow us on Tormenting Tarmac. Go ahead and subscribe on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, of course, and then give us a follow here on Instagram and all that. But that's it for now. So, on behalf of Josie, and of course her lovely dog, who I do hope feels a lot better here afterwards and whatnot. Uh, oh, hello, little doggy. Oh man, yeah, she definitely going through it.
She needs some snuggles
Yeah,
right
she
now.
she needs some love right now. So we'll definitely go
Snuggle session.
sending her good vibes and whatnot. But that's Josie Rimmer. My name is Jorge Aquino, and you have all been listening to Tormenting Tarmac, and this is indeed the podcast where the enthusiast never dies. Good night, everybody.